One of the greatest things about going from Character Creator 4 to Character Creator 5 is the incredible fidelity you can get out of your characters now. Whether that be through the brand new subdivision levels, through the HD eye elements, or even utilizing the more improved expressions that have corrective features to them. Very similar to what you're getting with metahumans. Well, there's a lot to like about Character Creator 5. The only problem is if you're like me, you've probably developed a whole host of characters based on that CC3 plus base in Character Creator 4. So how do you go from Character Creator 4 but still leverage all of those great new features without recreating your characters from scratch? Well, I'm going to take you through that process to how you can get your CC4 characters utilizing all those brand new great features. But then I'll take you even further to show you how I've leveled up my characters even more and what that process looks like. So with that said, let's get started. My name is Eric. I'm a 3D artist using programs like Blender, Unreal Engine, and iClone to help tell my stories. And I make videos and 3D assets to help you do the same. And in this video, we're gonna be utilizing my character, Alejandro. He's one of my favorite characters that I work with. Probably the one I go back to time and time again, because I really like the look and he just fits in with some of the characters' stories that I'm telling. Right now I have them loaded up. This is the C3 plus base that I have with my character. There are 3 things that you want to do to get your character up to the next level when it comes to CC5. First thing you can do is increase your subdivision count. So CC5 allows you to go from subdivision 0 to 2 additional subdivisions. So we're going to hit subdivide and then we'll hit subdivide again. Now with these additional subdivision levels, you're getting so much more detail within the topology. Obviously it's a lot denser. And so what you can start doing is getting more refined detail that is actually built into the mesh itself, rather than just utilizing normal maps as we've typically done in the past, because the mesh has been a lot more optimized. This also can be exported out to something like Blender, where you can sculpt on that higher level subdivision, and you can then bring it back into Character Creator 5 and continue your work from there. So that's really, really cool. I've actually tried it myself, and I'm really happy with that you can actually send out the subdivision levels. So that's awesome. What we're going to do with this character though is that those subdivision levels will be able to use the new HD morphs. So HD body and HD head. Now I went with the ultimate morphs pack when I purchased my CC5, so I bundled it up a little bit more. So if you can do that, I would highly recommend it because I really like a lot of these morph sets that are here. The next thing we want to do is adjust the eyes. So CC5 has far better HD eyes now, so we can get in close here and we can see they look okay, but they're a little flat, and eyes are obviously what we're going to be focusing on the most as an audience with your character, so we want to make sure those look really good. So we can go in here, we actually can delete out the occlusion mesh, and I'm going to actually go in here, find the tier line, delete that as well. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to delete this eye element altogether. So make our character look real creepy for now. But then we're going to go into our template folder and we're going to go to our characters and go to the eyes. Under HD eyes, we have a whole range of great looking eyes. I'm going to stick with brown eyes version 3. So we're going to load that into our character. The only difference for this one is obviously you can see the irises got super small. So I'm going to go into my morphs panel and I'm going to go to my CC base eyes, and I'm just going to increase that iris scale a little bit more. I've taken a picture of my character the way they were before, so we can see that real quick. And I'm just gonna try to match up those eyes a bit from my own standpoint, and that's looking pretty good. Back under the attribute tab, we can hit add eye element. So that will add our eye occlusion back in, and that's also going to add in the new tier line. So we'll let that load up. And so we can see already this is looking really good compared to what we started with. So we have this nice, just very glossy look. I really like the looks of these new eyes. You also get these kind of false shadows. There's a lot more that you can adjust with too. So I'm going to double click on my eye occlusion math, and I'm going to go into our materials tab. And then if you scroll down from the top, these are linked up, but you have adjustments for the blur, range. We also have shadows. You can see if we zoom in here that this shadow up here just needs to go a little bit higher. So I'll double click on that again, and that's going to be in this shadow 1 top range. So I'm just going to drag the base up just a little bit and remove that white fringe, and that looks pretty good. And of course you can adjust this even more to your heart's content, but I think that looks really nice. So now our eyes are looking really good. We have our subdivision. The next thing we would want to do if we just wanted to get our character back up to that CC5 level is want to make sure that it's using those CC5 expressions. To adjust those, go into your facial profile editor. If none of these panels are showing up for you, then I would recommend going into your window and then you can bring them up with these panels. So then I'm going to hit Edit Expression. And we will see that we have a CC4 extended profile right here. I'm just going to click on that. And I'm going to go to CC5. I'm going to hit Apply. It will ask you if you want to save your CC facial profile beforehand. Now, if you've done minor adjustments in the past or major adjustments in the past with your CC5 profile, then that might be something you want to do. I didn't do a lot of updates, so I'm not going to. I'm going to hit No. And then it's going to apply the CC5 profile. I'm going to hit View Corrective, and then I'm going to exit out of the Edit Expressions panel. So with the Edit Expressions gone, one of the things that I recommend checking is just to make sure that that is locked in properly. So we're going to go over to our Motion Pose, hit Edit Facial, and sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes it will say this. Due to insufficient expression data of the target character, sliders of the facial key and facial puppet panels may be partially disabled. So it's showing that we have the CC5 profile adjusted, but something didn't go right when we edited those expressions. So I've run into this a few times. Really don't know what's causing it. The easiest solution for me is to go back into my Edit Expressions panel. From CC5, we're just going to go back to the CC4 extended. I'm going to hit Apply. I'm not going to save the profile. So here we go. And then I'm going to exit out of that just to make sure that that CC4 profile applies. And then we'll jump back into the Edit Expressions and we'll set it back to CC5 again. So with that done, we're going to hit Edit Facial again. And this time it works. So I don't know what is causing that error, but if you do run into it, well, I'm glad that it showed up in this video. If you do, all you have to do is send it back to CC4 HD and then send it on back to CC5 HD and then everything. But definitely make sure that that is coming up correctly within this, and that means that it is locked in just the way you need it to be. So now we have everything ready to go. Your character is set up to use those CC5 updated expressions. You have improved eyes, and you have this subdivision level that you can adjust more with if you want to. Now, you can end right there because obviously this is exactly how our character started, but it's just been slightly updated so we can use those new features. If you want to take it the next step further, then follow along because this is the path that I've found gives me the best results and has been worth my time leveling up my characters. So at this point, my recommendation would be to take a render of your character the way they are. So we're going to hit Render. We're going to go to Export, and then I'm just going to save it. Now, I've done this previously. We're just recording it again. Replace that image, and here we go. There's our character. I'm actually going to hit the J on my keyboard to get even closer. Let's re-render that one more time. And there we go. We have a good base reference of what our character looks like, where we started. So now with that character set and good to go, I'm going to go into my content folder. I'm going to go back to custom and hit my characters. go to my Alejandro folder, and I'm just gonna save this character as they are right now. So Alejandro, CC5 update. So we have him ready to go just the way we started. Obviously, you can see from this template that it looks very similar. The next thing I'm gonna have us do is go into our template folder, go into the skin folder, and then I'm gonna look in the overall sub-tab for CC5 4K. So CC5 Human 4K. And these are the new characters that you can start off with if you want to use your CC5 base characters right out of the box. We have our neutral M and our neutral F, our male and our female. So I'm just going to take the skin from the neutral M and drag and drop it right onto my character and hit apply. And what this is going to do is it's going to replace all of the textures on my character. So obviously it looks a bit different. The biggest thing being we have no more eyebrows, a lot lighter of skin color. We can take a look next to our original. Obviously it's a bit different. But one of the things that we can do with this now is we can go into our morph panel, and like I said before, we can actually add some of those details. Because we're at that subdivision 2 level, we can add additional details into our character. So we will go to the HD Ultimate Morphs, but we're going to go to the head version of them, and I'll just take you through some of my favorite adjustments. So we're going to do the crow's feet. I have the idea that my character has got a little bit more kind of wear and tear on them, so a little bit more. I like this eye define slider. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to set that at 52. And then we can adjust the crease of the eyes. And once again, this is all actually adjusting the topology. You can see if the character has a monolid, ours doesn't, but we'll add a little bit of that eye sagging just because we can see in our picture that we do have a little bit of that going on with our character. Maybe I'll just add just a bit more, put it at 45. Yeah, let's go 42. You can also do these overarching adjustments like the face sharp, but this gives a little too much of a skeletal look to me. So I'm gonna go with the face strong. Maybe I'll set that to 32-ish. And then if we look back at our character, we can see that I did have in the normal map some creases in the eyebrows, or the forehead, and the brows. So I'm gonna do that with the wrinkling of the forehead. And what I like to do is kind of mix and match these a bit so that I can get a little bit more of a defined look. But I don't want to go too crazy. One of the things you'll notice as we go along is I don't like to just kind of brute force everything. I like it all to be subtle and build up over time. Mouth define is another one that I really like. It seems to kind of push out the lips and just kind of sharpen them up a bit, which I find to be helpful. 59. And then we have mouth wrinkled, which tends to shrink them up just a bit. And because our character had just a little bit of thinner lips, I'll put that at 7. We'll look at the nasal root furrowed. Just a little bit more of that definition right up here. And then we want to see those folds in the cheek. So let's take a look again right at our character. You can see that they're a little bit more defined, so we'll make sure that those are defined here as well. I don't want to go too much, so again I'm going to mix and match these. Not bad. And again, if you wanted to, you could take this character out and sculpt on this yourself. So we got some detail in the face now, which I think is pretty nice, but we have a little bit more to do with the skin. We're gonna go into our appearance editor and then we're gonna activate the skin editor. So I like to use SkinGen. I like the SkinGen Pro plugin because you can actually customize that even further. And I also have additional packs that I've purchased over time that allow me to just have a kind of library of skin details that I can pull from. And so I'll put those up and put them in the description as well, where you can find them, because I think they are very, very helpful when it comes to building up your characters. And if you're just looking into Character Creator 5, I would try to bundle as much of this stuff as possible, just because you'll save some money. So here we go. It's going to take away all the hair and the clothing on our character, so we're focusing mainly on the skin. So in template, I'm going to go to the skin, and then I'm going to skip right on to our normal effects. This is where I spend a lot of my time. So we have eye crease, lips, but I'm going to go into this realistic human skin. So that's one of the packs that I had gotten, and we can add in some of these finer details. We could do a little bit with the eyes. I'm trying to think. We have a little bit of the bagginess right there, so let's just try eye wrinkle 5 real quick. Sometimes these effects though can be pretty strong, and that's probably not what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to delete that selected layer. I'm going to try eye wrinkle 7. Let's give that a shot. That's looking pretty good. And you can always adjust the overall effect. You can go in and adjust it by its normal, or just with the base color. Sometimes I just like to be up here unless I'm really trying to just drive the normal maps itself. And then we're going to add the eye wrinkle. I know that's something that I always like to add onto my characters, so when they blink, there's some detail there. Forehead, we do have a little bit of wrinkles on this character's forehead, so I'm going to add that back in with this. But obviously it's a little too high, so we can adjust the height on that and the width a bit. And then I'm going to bring down the overall effect. Again, just making it subtle. It's there, but nothing crazy. We also have these frown folds. So let's add those in as well. Again, we're going to make it subtle because we already drove some of that detail with our morph. Just give us a little bit of something to work with. And then the lips already seem to have a good amount of detail there. And the skin. Okay, obviously you have more for the body, you've got noise, but I'm going to skip on down to the folder 4 levels. We're going to go into face. And I'm just going to add each one of these, and I'll show you the effect that they're going to have. This is a great way to drive additional detail, especially if you're going to be having your character more close up. So we can see our character here. Take it away. So this has a little bit more of an overall effect, so we can adjust it as need be. Maybe like 72 there. We're going to add the tertiary normal map as well, and these are broken down by male and female, so you can adjust them based on the character that you're working on. But this is going to add us some more detail, especially right there in those cheeks. You can see that. And then I'm going to do the micro normals as well. So we'll add those in. This is just a great way to further drive some more noise on the face. Get that skin look going for us. Because our character is a little bit more weathered, I like that a lot. Add the ear detail as well, because why not? I think it always looks good. I'm going to add these facial wrinkles as well. Just a little bit of those kind of crow feet, you know, those wrinkles for the face. But I'm going to drive it. I'm going to put it a little further down in our list. Probably underneath those forehead folds. So that looks pretty good. And just add on the nose pores as well. I just really like to have a lot of those details in here, especially if the camera gets close to the face. It can pick up on some of those fine details. But sometimes these tend to be a little bit too large for me, so I like to tile them up just a bit more, and then we can bring down that opacity and that overall effect. So we have some nice detail in the face here. Again, you can do some more for the body. We have some decals that we can apply to our character, but we're going to go down to this coloration. And this redness folder, which is new with Character Creator 5. I find it to be one of the best additions for adding some more realism to your character, because it's really going to drive a lot of that redness beneath the skin and mimic those. So obviously it comes on pretty strong right out the gate, but it is broken up into 3 levels. So I'm going to take the first 2 off for now. The lower face obviously shows you with the chin. I'll put that at 87. The mid face, see, that's driving the cheeks. This one I like to bring down a little bit more, but I want to make sure it's there, because I really do like to add some of that variation into the face. Obviously it's something that didn't exist in this too much. There's a little bit obviously in the eyes, but that's going to show up in our upper level of the face, and so we can play with that. But these, so basically the face upper and the face lower, I like to keep at higher level values, and the mid face is where I kind of bring stuff down again. So we got some color in there. We can do a little bit more if we go into the capillaries. I'm just going to bring the cheek capillaries on. So that looks pretty nice. Again, just breaking it up a bit. I want it to be subtle and just subtly build up like a painter. I'm just subtly building up details to add to the overall effect, not going too strong at any one time, and I can always come back and refine later. Within blemishes, I like the freckles quite a bit. Obviously, there's some more to play with here, but I'm going to take just this light freckle and I'm going to almost bring it all the way down, because I don't want my character to be too spotted with those freckles, but I do like the way that they break up the skin just a bit more and show that touch of sun on the character, because I want my character to look like he's out in the desert, and that is what I like to do. We can do some sunburn, but I'm going to leave that for now. You can also dirt. This is a great thing, especially if your environment is dusty and dirty, or there's story elements. Sometimes I like to paint those on myself in Substance Painter and then bring the maps back in through SkinGen so that they're kind of modular. I can take them on and off. And you have additional pieces here. But I'm going to go for the last piece on this to go into the body hair, and we're going to go into the beard, and we just have this base stubble. And once we get to a certain level of things that we're adding onto the character, obviously your computer's going to warn you, hey, you're going to start running this performance as you continue to layer these on, but we're okay here. And I'm just going to bring that down a bit because I just want to have some subtlety to the face. And that looks really nice. Now the only other thing that I will point out on this character, one of the things I did is I added a little bit of eyeshadow, because I wanted to go with that idea of if they're out in the desert, then we're going to be fighting that glare. Maybe they've used a little bit of soot on their eyes. You know, think of Jack Sparrow, or some baseball players where they put the eye black underneath their eyes, something to help reduce that glare. So we're going to head over to the makeup section, and then we'll also head over to the makeup in our content folder. I'm just going to look for the eyes, eye makeup, eyeliner, and then I'm just going to put this basic one on here. So it's going to look a little weird right out the gate, being on our male character, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this range level, and I'm going to blur it, and bring the expansion down. I'm going to blur it a little bit more, and bring that expansion down. I'm just playing with it, and then I can bring some of that opacity down with it. And I want it just to be subtle. It's just a subtle effect to add a little bit of darkness. And one of the things that's going to do too is going to draw the eye for our viewers into those eyes. So that's a great way to do it. Uncheck this activate editor, and that's going to bring back our hair and the clothing, and it's going to show us our character as they stand. All right, so we have our character. There's a few more steps that we're going to want to hit as we go along to updating our character. So let's bring up our old picture one more time so we can see a few things. One, we have no eyebrows, so we got to adjust that. Two, there are better eyelashes that we can pull from for our character, so we're going to do that as well. And then we're going to do our final piece, which is kind of an overall adjustment of the skin color. Obviously, we have a darker skin color on our original character than we do here, so we can adjust that as well. So let's dive into it. First and foremost, let's get those eyebrows on our character. So where you can find that is in hair. We're going to go to hair group, and we're going to go to eyebrows. So there are HD brows for female and male. You have a few. I would suggest just playing around with them, seeing what fits your character best. But I'm gonna go with this male segmented, because that's gonna be, well, we're gonna look at this one. Okay, so that gives us a very edgy look. Maybe not what I'm going for. So I'm gonna delete that. Let's try patchy. I think patchy is gonna be the one that I want to go for. Yeah, there we go. So it gives it a little bit of a different vibe, obviously, than our previous one. But I like that. I like that look. We had a little bit of wispiness here, so having it in these eyebrows, I think, really helps. Next thing we'll do is we'll go into the eyelashes. CC5 has improved the eyelashes with multiple layers so that they're better when you kind of get into these profile views. So we're going to jump into that as well. That's going to be back under our actors tab. We can go into our eyelashes, and then there's HD natural, and HD makeup. Natural, I feel like, tends to dive down a little bit too much on me, so I like to go with more of the makeup look. I'm just going to use these clustered ones because I don't want it to be like super overly feminine, like mascara looking. Obviously for my male character, that I want a little bit more natural and rugged. But obviously this is something that, if you think about it, when we go through and look at Hollywood actors, obviously they're going through hair and makeup all the time. So these are things that, you know, they don't seem like the most obvious right choice in the moment. It could lend a little bit better to our character, and I think that does for ours. Obviously it gives it a little bit of that darker line up here on the character's face, so it kind of goes along with that smoky eye look that we're going for with that desert environment. So we have our eyelashes. Sometimes I have to adjust these myself. You can do that by going into the edit panel, edit mesh, and you can actually, well, that's our character that we're going to be looking at. But like, say if you wanted to double click, you can go into edit mesh, and you will see that you can adjust all of these. I would use soft selection, and I would just choose or batch select the ones you want, and then you can move them up and down depending on how you need them to look. But you can kind of move them around more individually so that you have a little bit more fine-tuned control over them. But now, obviously, with several clicks, we've gotten our character to look a lot better with the eyebrows, which are hair cards now instead of being painted on like they were before. And our eyelashes have been vastly improved as well. So let's bring back our character one more time. And obviously we can see, if we hold them up next to each other, this character is a lot more lighter skin tone than the one we originally started with. And so that's something that I want to adjust. And that's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to select our character. I'm going to go into the material tab, and I'm going to make sure that the head is selected. I'm going to come down here to skin color, activate skin color. And then we're going to do the color adjustment. So I'm going to activate that, and obviously you can see really lightened up my skin quite a bit. So I'm going to bring that all the way down. I want to compare that to my character again. And this is okay, it's a little bit more olivey than maybe I'm going for, so let's add a little bit more red into the character. And I like the way that they do this because it can give you a little bit more control over the character itself using natural color tones. So obviously bringing in yellow, red, and black, it's a great way to do it. Now the skin tone, as I've added those in, around 36 and 35, I'm just going to bring up the skin tone just a bit in the illumination. I don't want to go too far, because I still want that darker skin tone. And that's looking pretty good to me. So I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, if we look at our character, you can see we've got so much more detail going on here. We got, you know, the pores obviously coming in through SkinGen, but we have the actual mesh deformation driving some of these refinements in the skin as well. We have a little bit more of that, you know, popping features with the lips and the eyes. So really, really like it. It just looks so much more realistic to me. Obviously with the eyebrows, the eyes themselves. We have the tear lines and everything. It's just looking great. So really happy with how this character is looking. The next thing that I would do after that, it was go about adding in some of those deformations to the body itself. So we'll just do that really quickly. I'm going to go back into my ultimate morphs, and I'm going to choose the male athletic A. Yep. And then I'm going to adjust these. You can do it overall with the body adjustment like that if you wanted to, or you can do a little bit more modular and controlled if you want to. So I'm going to just adjust the abs myself. Send them there. We got the arms that we can bring up. Let's just put them in an A pose real quick. Let's go down here, pose, A pose. So we can just get a little bit better look at our character. Looks pretty good. Get the back more defined as well. I don't want to go too crazy. So like one of the benefits of not just, again, doing everything at once. Let's get the chest to be just a little stronger looking. That's good. The neck be a little stronger. And let's get those ribs in there. It's looking nice and strong. Get the shoulders a little bit more refined. It's nice. And the thighs. But again, not too much. I don't want to go too far with this. So that's looking great. Honestly, in my opinion, I think this is vastly superior to what we started off with. So I'm really happy with that. What I would recommend that you would do at this point, because obviously right now you're at a huge subdivision level. So in subdivision level 2, if I just select our character and I go edit, you're going to see the sheer amount of mesh detail we have in here. Obviously, this is huge amount of mesh detail. So obviously it's not very performant. I've taken it into Unreal Engine just to see what that does, and it took forever to load in comparative to what we have with just the base characters. So that is something to consider. Obviously it's nice to have all that detail, and Unreal Engine could handle it, but you really got to run that cost of how long it takes to get in there. So what I would recommend you do at this point, because you can always come back to this, I'm going to go over to our custom folder, go to our actors, go into our character, I'm Alejandro, and I'm going to overwrite this update. Obviously, because I like the skin color better here than I do here, so I'm just going to overwrite this for now. And that's looking pretty good. For me, I will write the face on there as just my thumbnail. So now we have our character. Well, thing that you can do to now get this more optimized for, say, something like Unreal Engine or Blender is to bake down all of these details that we've developed in the mesh itself to the normal maps on the subdivision level of your choice. So if we go up over into Create, Bake Sub-D Normal Maps, we can choose the subdivision we want to go down to. So for me, it's going to be subdivision level 0. Then we have texture size at 2K, and then you can adjust which body parts that's going to be applied to. I don't find that I did anything to the nails or the eyes or the tongue or the teeth that's going to require those adjustments to be baked down. So I'm just going to select these, the body, arm, leg, and head. I'm going to hit apply. And so what that's going to do is it's going to bake down those details from our higher mesh into the normal maps. And then it's going to automatically put us down from our subdivision level 2 back to subdivision level 0. All right, so let's take a look at our character. Obviously, it looks the same from what we had when we built it out with those mesh details. Obviously, the proportions are all there. But if we go back into that edit mode, you can see that on subdivision level 1, this mesh is far more optimized, but we still have all those beautiful details. So what I like about that is that you can kind of go from that high level of detail, really focused, you know, whether you're sculpting it in a program outside of here and then bringing it back in, or if you are going through this whole level with morphs and the HD morphs and then adjusting those as well. This is a great way to just get that detail and then bake it down to a performant level character. So after that, I would just say, let's make another save. We're gonna call it Alejandro CC5 Optimized. And then from there, I would add on the clothing and the accessories that I can then pull into Unreal Engine. This is a great way to update your characters. Obviously, this is a little bit longer of a tutorial, but it gives you an idea of the things that I go through in order to make my characters look a lot better. And of course, you can do a very simple conversion from CC4 to CC5, and that's all well and good. But I definitely have found that it's been far worth my time to take that opportunity to spend a little bit more time and get my characters looking even better now than they were before. So one more time, let's just bring up our old character compared to our new character. We can just see that this character feels like it's got more life to it, and I'm really happy with that. So hopefully this tutorial has given you some excitement, some enthusiasm, and some inspiration to jump out there and go and update your characters to look even better than they did before. My name is Eric from Libertas Armory, and I will see you in the next one.